Good morning, and welcome to another No Themes Review video. This is a special one. Today I had the chance to interview Rok Gulic, the co-founder of Ollo Audio. If you do not know, Ollo Audio is a small headphone company in Slovenia. It makes two headphones, an open back and a closed back. They are both designed to be neutral. I have previously reviewed Ollo headphones. My testing A and B comparisons show that Ollo headphones easily compete with competitors twice the price. But there is a lot still unknown about this company. It is easy for people to purchase from a known brand, Sennheiser, Beyerdynamic, AKG. Yes, lots of times you get mediocre headphones at inflated prices, but you at least get the comforting knowledge these companies have been around for a long time. My testing and use of Ollo headphones and my interactions with people at the company have been positive. My channel debunks audiophile myths and rumors, bust corporate marketing nonsense. But I also want to highlight and uplift companies that do in fact excel. I think Ollo Audio is a company you should consider. But you need to know the company first. You need to be comfortable with it. Although there are some scattered blogs on the internet that quote representatives from Ollo Audio, I could not find an interview of the founders. So, I reached out to Ollo Audio and asked if they would be interested in an interview. They were. Over the last several weeks, I have been in touch with Rok Gulic. We tried to schedule an interview and we were finally successful today. Here, I present our conversation. It is unedited. I tried to ask fairly open-ended questions so that Rok had a chance to tell us as much as possible about his company, products, and future plans. In a follow-up video, I will provide my personal impressions of this conversation. But for now, I ask that you take this conversation in stride. Enjoy. Rok, I thank you so very much for taking the time to talk to me and answer a couple of questions for many of my viewers.
Sure.
I've reviewed your headphones, the S4R specifically, a number of times, and I think that they are really excellent headphones, especially for the price. And I've pointed several people to your website and asked them to take a look at what you're offering, because I think ultimately when people are looking for mixing, mastering, monitoring headphones, they are often led to Beyerdynamic and Sennheiser and other manufacturers. But yours, I found that your headphones are more neutral than the ones that I just mentioned, Beyerdynamic and Sennheiser. Do you think that's also the case?
Well, to be perfectly honest, there is a bunch of headphones out there in the market that perform similarly or better than ours, right? But it's really hard to compare headphones one to another, because you can truly experience headphone only if you actually try it out and only if you have a chance to compare it to some other model, right? Which comes down, in my opinion, to harmonics, right? So the harmonics have a big play in that. Also, how they feel on your head, around your ears and stuff like that will play a massive role. And also how far away from your ears the speakers are. Although a response chart will show a similar headphone, it will perform very differently. So I guess, in my opinion, would be that it's really impossible to compare headphones just based on specs.
So I tend to agree with that. You mentioned that there are other headphones that are better than what you offer. Which ones would you think perform better, in your opinion?
Well, I would say there's quite a few, but the one that actually comes into our price range, actually below our price range, is the latest model from AKG, which, of course, this is not the best advertising for me, but I'll say this: their latest model, AKG K371, is a model that they designed with the new Harman loudness curves that they have developed. The lead developer was Sean Olive. and he did an amazing job together with his team. And this is one of the first models that AKG popped out that actually follow this curve, actually follow this standard. And honestly, they perform great for 150 euro, which would be less than 200 bucks. And they are a closed design, though. And I can just say that the middle and the vocals is exactly where I would be very happy if our model would be exactly on that spot as well. What I do think they lack though is the low end, where they are a bit boosted. So I'm thinking that the goal of AKG with this model was to take away the market share from the Audio-Technica M50s, right? Kind of same price range, a little bit bass boosted, right? But better. So without the dip in the 400 or 500 somewhere out there, I think the M50s have a little dip, right? So the K371, they don't. It's kind of flat all across. So that's one of the competitive headphone currently on the market that I think is doing a really good job. But I'm not worried because we have a great development team ourselves, and I think we're gonna do much better in the next year. Of course, will be more expensive probably, but again, it's not going to be plastic and it's going to be hand built in Europe, not in Thailand.
So other than the fact that the 371 has a different bass response, some might say that they can try to EQ some of that bass boominess down. Is there anything else that distinguishes your headphone from the 371? Why should people buy yours over the 371?
I mean, that's a really tough question, especially if you ask, the owner of the company. So that's a tricky one. I'm trying to think about maybe about cars or computers and other industries. Why would somebody buy A model of a car versus a B model of a car, where the specs are basically the same, right? The price range is basically the same. I guess it comes down to your preferences and to your values, to your beliefs, right? So if you want to buy from a company that is sustainable, right, that is taking care of the environment, that is always available, that has a great customer support, that you can call, that you can exchange bits and pieces of the headphones, right? Then it's clear you're going to go with Ollo, right? But if you're a person that trusts a big brand, that tends to trust an established player who's been in the market for 30, 40, 50 years, right? Well, in that case, you're going to go with AKG, Biodynamic, Sony, whatever, right? So I guess it comes down to what do you actually believe as a general, I don't know, guidance in your life or something like that.
Well, speaking of belief, I looked at your About page and the story behind how you decided to actually start your company. You said that you were working late at night for your band, mixing a CD, and you were getting a little frustrated with your headphones. Now, could you tell us exactly what it was that made you frustrated about that experience?
Yeah. Well, I was, first of all, the music that I produced at the time, I am a drummer myself, so I like a bass. I like to feel the kick, right? So when you're mixing music and your background is a drummer, you tend to miss the low end and you tend to miss the vibration in your body, right? If you're mixing with headphones. So this was my first struggle. How am I going to mix, the 30, 40, 50 hertz that I really like without feeling those, right? So that was, the first thing I kind of had to figure out. And then the second thing was, again, from drummer's perspective, right? There, at least in our music, there's a lot of symbols, right? Meaning that they go, from like 5 kilohertz all the way to 20, if you wish, right? So it's really hard to mix them, in a proper way so that they don't, hurt your ears eventually. And I found out that doing that on headphones, these two things are really hard. And it's really hard to get a headphone that will be fair, right? Beyond 5K, right? Including the most popular ones for mixing, let's say Sennheiser 600 series or 650, right? They're great
Yeah.
up to 3.5, maybe up to 4. But when it comes to 6, 7, 8 or beyond, it's just ear piercing, right?
Right.
So again, the Quest kind of ended up being a do-it-yourself project, right? I just, went online, tried to get different speakers. I read their specs. I tried to learn as much about headphones as I could. And eventually I made, my first model for me, right? It was duct taped together, basically. But I've learned um, that it would be possible with enough love and passion to create a headphone and design it fairly flat using acoustics only. So no DSP and nothing, right? And once I knew that, I went on this journey of, modifications and coming up with the S1 model and then the S2 model and then the S3, which I already sent out to many engineers to get feedback, and then eventually landing on the S4. But in the meantime, from the S3 to the S4, I was lucky enough to get funded. So we had our, little bag of money, so I could start marketing. I could pay for a developer and etc. Right. So this kind
Mhm.
of just made this snowball a bit bigger, and it started to roll down the hill. And honestly, in the last 12 months, we have grown the company 10 times compared to the whole last year's revenue, which is pretty amazing.
And
So
how do you think that happened? What do you think is the cause for your tenfold growth?
it's you guys. That's for sure. It's the community we have. So it's the endorsement guys and all the customers we have. They grow our company, right? And
Hmm.
I think it comes down to what they believe into. Right? They believe in the same things that we believe in, right? Sustainability, spare parts, serviceability, right? All these things play a role. And the fact that you can actually mix on headphones if you're willing.
Now you mentioned the process a little bit about going from the S3 to the S4. Can you tell us a little bit what it took for you to get to the S4? Why you settled on that driver design instead of the previous ones?
Hmm. Yeah, well, actually, the S3 and S4, when it comes to design on its own, they were pretty similar. Um, so the biggest changes were in how they are actually assembled. So, for example, the S3 was mainly glued together. So the ear pad holder, for example, was 3D printed, and it was just glued on top of the wood. On the S4, that's a history, right?
Hmm.
And the ear pad as well. The ear pad that we went with on the S3 was a artificial leather. It was nice, but it wasn't really good enough. And also the specs weren't brilliant, right? On the S4, we managed to find a really cool supplier that was willing to do a small batch for a small startup company, which is the biggest challenge when you're starting up, right? How to get a supplier that's going to change whatever it has according to your specs or make a new product, right? And in the quantities of 500 or 1,000 pieces. So that is a big pain when it comes to hardware startups like we are, right?
So with the S4, when you settled on the S4 and the S4R, are both headphones using the exact same driver?
Yeah, the S4 has the same driver. So it's a 50 millimeter driver. It's very light. Very easy to drive. So it kind of falls again into what we believe, right? We believe that
Hmm.
music should be available, I mean, to mix music should be available on a laptop or any smart device. You shouldn't really limit creativity or good quality monitoring um, to people with money and potential to invest 20, 30K into acoustic treatment, right? So it comes down
So
to
if
that.
somebody purchased the S4R, the closed back, and later on they purchased for €30
Mhm.
the backing, the open back that's for the S4, can they switch the backing and certainly turn their S4R into an S4 and they'll have the S4 sound?
Yes, absolutely.
So theoretically, a person will only need to buy one of your headphones and they could just buy the back cover
Yeah.
separately and
Mhm.
interchange. And
Yes.
was that by design that you wanted people to have that opportunity?
No, not at all. This is not. It's not a part of the design. It's something that you can do, but you're only going to do it a few times,
Hmm.
because later on, the screws that are holding the back plates are screwed into the wood directly, which means they're eventually there's going to be a wear off of the wood, right?
Hmm.
Meaning that the screws will not hold tight anymore. So if you're willing to do some, do-it-yourself tricks, you can go back and forth as many times as you wish, but eventually this will fail. It's not designed to be interchangeable, but it is designed simple enough that if you wish or if you need for some reason once or twice in a year or two to exchange the headphone, yeah, you can buy the spare parts and do that yourself.
No, every portion of your headphone, either the S4 or the S4R, can be broken down, can be disassembled.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah.
Mhm.
And so when I went on your website and I looked at the spare parts page, it looked like I could buy every single piece separately, and then if I knew how to put it together, I would basically have the headphone that you sell complete. Is that true?
Yeah, I think all the parts are there. Yeah.
Is there any particular reason why your company decided to go down that route? The only reason I ask is because I don't know of any other company that is so willing to allow their customers to just buy pieces and to replace pieces. Often you got to send your headphone in someplace and pay a premium to have it done, even if it's a small minor fix.
Mhm.
Was that by design? Did you want it to be so approachable for your customers, or what was the rationale behind it?
Yeah, there is no rationale. It's just what we do, what we stand for. We think that the, this industry is like it's moving a little too slow in our opinion. It should move faster and become kind of closer to the customers, more. I'm searching for the right word, but I think more friendly, right?
Mhm.
And doing a product that you can buy once and you can have it for quite a few years, and if needed be for whatever reason you need to fix it, you can, right? And that this on the other hand, it falls really nicely along with the pro audio community, right? So whatever you buy in pro, you should expect serviceability and you should expect that you can fix things on your own, right? If you buy, for example, a really cool professional, I don't know, PC tower or whatever, you can exchange, the RAM and the hard drives and everything yourself. That's the point of buying pro equipment, right? So that's my take on it, and we want to be in that era. I think we are a company that produces professional equipment, which of course means that it should be serviceable. It should kind of service the people that are using it, right? Which means if you're on tour and you break them, you can buy spare parts, we ship them the next day, and you can fix them wherever you are. That's the whole idea.
Well, I think that's very commendable. Like I said, I don't know of any other company that does it that has that type of mentality. So it was refreshing to actually go to a spare parts page and see that I could purchase everything that I would need to
Yeah,
fix
yeah,
any
but
little issue on the headphone.
maybe I can add a little bit to this, right? So why would a big company not do that? One of the reasons is because their designs are grounded in financials, right? In numbers,
Hmm.
which means, for example, they have to be able to make a headphone that is like 400 euros or 300 euros on the market. They have to be able to make it for 20 euros, maybe 25, but that's like the top, right? Meaning that it has to be, injection molded. It has to be glued. It has to be designed in a way that it could be mass produced, right? So that makes it almost impossible to make it serviceable at home, right? Or
Hmm.
serviceable at all. In many cases, you're going to experience that. If something goes wrong, they're just going to ship you the new model, right? Or exchange it for the same model if it's still on the market. And they're not going to even attempt repairing it because it costs more than, just another headphone out of the warehouse.
Mm. Right. I have a question about some of the marketing, specifically on your website. So when I'm looking at your website right now, and on the flash page, on the first page, your website mentions that you guys are working with professionals like Lady Gaga and Usher and Rihanna. A lot of times companies like AKG, for example, will mention that, or they'll have a photograph of, say, Quincy Jones wearing an AKG headphone, but they
Mhm.
but don't really explain what that's all about. Is it so? What does it mean when you say that it's by industry professionals and you're working with these people?
It means that our customers, our endorsers and ambassadors, and some of them are also our partners, meaning they get involved in the development process as well. It means that they use our product and they give us feedback, a super valuable feedback, and at the same time they are helping us spread the word about our products. That's what we do together with them. We are trying to build a community, right? And this is really not a paid endorsement or stuff like that. For example, the AKG and Quincy Jones. Um, I don't know for a fact, but I think AKG had to pay some licensing or whatever to use Quincy Jones' brand name, right?
Hmm.
So it's a different story, right? We are really just a startup trying to deliver something that is good, a good value, and kind of be sustainable in all regards.
So how did you approach these artists? I mean, how did you go up to Rihanna or Usher or John Bon Jovi, for example? What got them involved with your
Yeah,
company?
once again, I want to clarify that. So we're working with their engineers,
Mm.
meaning people that works or worked with these great artists, right? So to get that out of the way, we are not working with Bon Jovi. We're working with the guy who mixed Bon Jovi. In our case, that's Chris Brown. We're working with the guy Gary Noble, who is the engineer, who was the engineer for Amy Winehouse, for example, right? So
Hmm.
this is we are using their brand and their social equity, right? Um, as a way of saying we are a new company, but we don't completely sucks, right? And here are the people that trust us, right? So maybe you should give us a chance and try us out. That's basically what we are trying to do with that. And
Hmm.
eventually, we're gonna go away from this name dropping because we don't think it's really cool. But for a startup starting out, it's a quick way of saying to potential new customers, check us out, it's worth your while.
So in that realm, when you're working with engineers and trying to get feedback, is there a particular genre of music that your headphones are made for? I mean, are they specifically for pop, classical, rap? Is there a particular genre of music that would work best for these headphones?
Well, I'm sure there is, but in reality, they were designed to be as neutral as possible, meaning they should work as a mixing professional tool in any genre, right? And just to quickly answer the question before, which I unintentionally skipped, which is did they come to us or did we search for this artist, right? The truth is they come to us. So it started with Chris Brown,
Hmm.
who sent us an email. I want to try your headphones, right? and I was totally bummed, having a great name like that, um, trying us out in the early days, super early days. And from there, it was just a word of mouth. He spoke to a few other guys, and it just spread around. So in about a year, a little over a year, we got about 20 or 30 really high-end endorsers on board. Yeah, and to now follow on the second question, yeah, they are flat, so it means that they should work with any genre, but they're not perfectly flat, right? We don't hide this fact, although
Hmm.
maybe there are some people saying now we're trying to hide that in our charts, which is just ridiculous. It goes down to, yeah, we could have a different chart with a different scale, and it would be all ups and downs, and then it would not look flat anymore. The point is we got to get this point of it is flat across, and this is how we do it. So they should, work pretty well in anything, but they do have, again, a little bump at around 200 hertz, which makes them a bit warmer. So I guess they would be really um, enjoyable or welcoming to male vocals, to maybe some strings or pianos and stuff like that. That tends to sound better when they are played back on a slightly warmer playback system.
Now, is each headphone that you make is hand assembled, and they're specifically tuned to be as flat as possible? Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And so I understand some of the commentary that you've received is some complaints that this is not an accurate scale. I've had people tell me that about your headphones. Somebody sent me a link to a website that showed a measurement for, I believe, the S4R, which was very, very different from the measurement that I received in the box and the one
Yeah.
that's displayed on your website.
Mhm.
So I think it's important for people to kind of understand the idea of what a measurement actually is and how it's performed. So would you be able to tell us what you use to measure and tune your specific drivers?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Um, well, yeah, the measurement is, if you go back to the beginning of this interview, right? We
Hmm.
talked a bit about what is a good headphone, right? And how to compare it with other headphones, and how comparing headphones based on specs will probably throw you off the truth, right? So measurements can easily be manipulated, right? And when you are using measurements to compare two products together, you should know what the common thing is, right? So it should be measured by the same person in the same room on the same jig, right? Everything else will have deviations. That's one thing that you should keep in mind. And the other thing is, no matter what system you're using, you're always going to have some tolerance going on. And these tolerances, when it comes to measuring headphones, tend to be quite high. So it's easy to go 1 or maybe even up to 2 dB off from, a set of first 5 measurements and a set of the other 5 measurements that you later on. And this tends to happen because you have to move the headphone around on your jig, right?
Hmm.
Meaning maybe a bit slightly forward and maybe a bit backwards, up, a bit more closer. The clamping force can change, right? All these things will affect little bits and pieces, right? So, I mean, in reality, in the 3 years since I'm in this industry, I have never successfully repeated a measurement that would be 100% same as a previous measurement. It just doesn't happen. Right? So when you're doing that, you have to keep this in mind. That's one thing. The other thing is that every part of a headphone will have a tolerance as well. So for example, ear pads will tend to maybe absorb a little bit different from one to another, depending on, I don't know what, but it's just the materials have inconsistency on their own, and the speaker again has inconsistencies, right? So you can see that on any measurement chart where they're comparing the left and the right speaker from whatever manufacturer, the most expensive headphones, and you're gonna see that it's easy to go 3, even 4 decibels apart at some points, which is huge, right? And
Hmm.
it doesn't mean that the headphone will sound bad. It just means that the measurement shows something, but you're not going to be able to hear it. So does it mean that it's a bad headphone? Far from it, right? So that's something that I would comment on measuring and how to compare things. But if you're asking technically what are we using, we used well, we're still using the Mini DSP, a very cheap entry level measurement gig, right? Which is good enough to get repeatable measurements within tolerance that is acceptable, right? And that's basically all. For the sound card, we're using the RME Fireface UFX something. I don't know. It was kind of expensive and it's good for this. And on the software part, we're using um, freeware or what's it called, open sourceware or whatever.
Hmm.
So it's the REW software that is available for anyone to download, which means that all our customers have a chance to download their measurements, the full spectrum measurements in this format. And they can open it and check it out on their own. For every headphone, we have a measurement, right? So that's something that I don't think other companies do as well. Right?
Yeah, no, I think that's the case. Sennheiser has measurements that it includes, but only for I think the 800 and the 800S and the 820. The lower
Mm,
price headphones, I've never found that they've included measurements in the box,
mm.
and it's really hard to find measurements for most headphones
Yeah,
from companies.
yeah. One of the reasons is exactly what I said before. It's a tolerance issue. We did buy on the market a bunch of different headphones, and from the same same mark and model, and they don't really perform as as good as you would think, right? So if you're buying a biodynamic DT7070s and your friend has one, it doesn't mean they sound the same. And that's why they're trying to avoid having these kind of things available to customers because it would cause confusion. That's just my opinion.
Mm. Uh, there's a viewer on my channel that commented a couple of days ago, maybe last week, that the S5 is going to be released soon. Is that true?
Um, we are working on the next model,
Hmm.
and we're not sure when it's going to come out um, because of the supply chain issues we have. So we are now past the point of being a really, really small startup, which means that whatever we now do goes into big numbers, meaning it goes into a lot of working capital. Right? We got to have a lot of money to pull this off, um, and and it goes down to being sure we'll be able, um, to deliver again what we did with the S4, right? So hopefully get some of the current customers to upgrade and get new customers in as well. We gotta survive, we do have the bills to pay. So it's a tricky one to answer when it's gonna happen. But yes, of course, just like any other company, we are working on new models. And what I can say right now is that the new model will have um, two major improvements, right? One is definitely the ringing part on the headband, which has been dragging us down, or since day one.
Hmm.
And the other part is what I mentioned before is the 200 hertz boost that we have on the S4. which is definitely not going to be there anymore. But there's other things pretty cool, which I'm not going to say right now.
Okay.
But I'm I'm trying to say yes, it's going to come, and it's not going to be 5 years from now. But I can't say if it's going to be in the next few months, or it's going to maybe take half a year, or maybe late next year. I don't know.
But people should be excited about whatever is coming.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's.
Is
I mean,
what's
if
the? I know you don't want to share. I understand that you don't want to spill all the beans, but is there something that we should all be looking forward to? One particular aspect about the new headphones?
uh, they're gonna have a way better curve when it comes to response, and way less total harmonics in there. So they might be less enjoyable for listening to music, as a general rule. They will be a better professional tool. That I can
Okay.
say, and I'm quite confident we're gonna hit at least 30% improvement on that, if not
Oh,
more.
that's impressive. If that comes out, that would be quite the difference.
Yep.
So talking about feedback, uh, it's really hard to get manufacturers to have direct conversations with users. A
Hmm.
lot of times it's marketing people who talk and they don't really answer questions. So when you talk about the improvements that are going to come in the next headphone, the headband, and the 200 hertz boost, is there anything else that you found from feedback that you think should be addressed at some point that you think are valid points?
Well, one of the thing is the length of the cable, which is debatable because some people will tell me it's a bit too long and they're getting, it's getting in the way, and then there are some people saying it's too short. So this is something we'll have to figure out. Eventually, maybe have two cables or something like that. But all these kind of changes kind of affects the final price, which is again very rooted in our beliefs, meaning we don't want to do an expensive piece of gear. We want to stay reasonable and deliver good quality. So yeah, there is a lot of things that comes in. Maybe for example, if they could be slightly bigger, right? So the ears would have like more room in there. Then the ear pads should be maybe a bit thicker, stuff like that. So we do have some complaints from the early buyers about the paint falling off, right? So these are the things that are some of those. For example, the paint is now fixed, but the ones that are based in decision making, right? We have to make a decision which way to go. Um, are kind of tough at the moment, and it's impossible to know what would be the best possible headphone, the best possible way, because whatever we decide, there will always be some people that will be happy about it, and there will be some people that will say, "Oh shit, that they made a mistake doing that." Right? So, and let me just add this on top of what I just said, is that not, I don't really want to have too many models, so we are not looking into having a big line of products where a consumer or a professional would get lost. So we are trying, or we are striving to have two, maybe three models at maximum available at any given time. Right?
It's so that's interesting. Is there any particular reason why um, an older model wouldn't be phased out? So let's say you bring out the S5 in a couple of years.
Mhm.
Should people expect that the S4 at some point will be discontinued and won't be sold through your website again because you're moving forward with other models?
Yes, pretty much. I mean, again, you have to know it's well, we're a business and we're gonna listen to our customers always. We're not gonna force anything down their throats, right? So if the new model will not work, will not, deliver what we think it will, then of course we're gonna keep the old model in a good shape and running. But if the new model will start to outperform the old model, there is really no reason to have the old model there anymore. At least that's how I see it. Although there might be some people that will still prefer the old model versus the new one, it's not really sustainable from a company point of view, right? So if you want to keep, again, reasonable prices and good quality, we have to be quite optimized on our end, in our operations, right? And the more models, the bigger the product line is, the more overhead costs you have. Meaning, ultimately, all the products would kind of get, in the price. I mean, just more expensive, basically, right? So we're trying to avoid that. This is a promise that is deep in our beliefs and deep in me, basically, right? I mean, I am a drummer. I've been a producer for years. I I like I like this industry, and I went through all the troubles and problems that probably any newcomer in this industry is facing right now. Just shortage of money and trying to do something with nothing, right? So I understand how important it is, or how it feels when you find a company or a product that is, reasonably priced and gives you really good results. And I want to keep that rolling on. So I just want to do that. Have a company, which is Ollo Audio, making headphones for professional use at reasonable prices. And to pull that off, I think I will have to, at some point, kill the old product and just go on with the new one.
Well, that's a very honest statement. I would also put in that having more headphones just makes it more difficult to differentiate one headphone from another. You gotta you gotta convince people to buy, the HD 579 or
Or something
569
else. Yeah.
over something else, over a 599, and how much difference is there?
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of truth to being focused on just a few things that you can do really well.
Yes, that's the point.
So there's something else that you sell on your website. It's called haptic monitoring. And
Yeah.
and I was surprised when I first saw this. I was very intrigued. I remain very intrigued. I have never seen something like this before. Now the website says that this is an amplifier and essentially a seat cushion that's supposed to pair with your headphones. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yeah. That is what it is. The idea is grounded in psychoacoustics and in neuroscience, right?
Hmm.
Um, what happens is that, or let's just go to the beginning, right? So, how do we hear things, right? We have ears, right? And by now, I hope everybody knows that our ears do not hear everything in a linear manner, right? Meaning, you need a lot more um, sound pressure to hear the low rumble, right? So the differences can be pretty big. And when it comes to headphones, um, they have a very small speaker, right? Meaning they can produce all the frequency ranges, right? But our body and our hearing system is really not used to, and was not evolved in a way um, to be ready to experience the 20, 30, or 40 hertz only through the ears, or through, just by ears themselves. We're used to hearing those frequencies or feeling those frequencies together, um, with the feel that you get in your chest or in your whole body. For example, when you're in a disco or something like that, you can feel the subwoofers shaking your body, right? And
Hmm.
this information is actually joined together in our brain, right? So our brain are, pretty awesome things, a pretty awesome part of our body, and they, kind of joins the information together meaning the information from the ears saying this is a 20 hertz sound wave or something, right? And the body comes in and saying, yeah, I can feel that. It's right here, right? So when you put that together, you have an incredible experience, and you can actually hear and feel the low rumble. For example, if I go back to my earlier answer about how this all started, right? I was trying to mix a kick drum, right? And if you're mixing a kick drum, it's a lot easier to set it just right when you can feel it in your chest. And in order to do that quietly on a headphone or on a quiet system, you need to push these vibrations directly into your body without making them travel through air. Because, essentially, if they would go through air, they would be, what's the English word? You could hear them, right? They would get loud. So that's the idea behind it, how to have a monitoring system that is full spectrum, and it also includes a haptic or a tactile experience that fills this void that any headphone will have. So the missing part of the music, right? If you're doing that solely on headphones. And we designed this cushion, if you wish, or a pillow or whatever, that has a tactile transducer in it, which pushes the bass directly into your body. And that's all there is. So when it joins together, it feels like if you're in a really big studio knocking the shit out of the monitors, right? So it's a great experience. It's a great product. And that I can say as well. The update on the Play to Me is also coming soon, which will be mostly because of the feedback we got from our customers.
And the Play to Me is the amplifier itself.
The Play to Me is the full system. So it gets the pillow, the amplifier, and the headphones all together. It's called the Play to Me system, yeah. And it's going to be modified, as I said, to fit the professional kind of environment, meaning it's going to be a standard rack unit, right? So you can mount it alongside other gear that you already have in your studio.
Well, is there a way for people to just buy the amplifier separate from the entire system?
I guess you could. It's not online, but of course, if you write us an email and say, "I just want to have the amplifier," I guess you can get it. But it doesn't make much sense. So it would be more like the amplifier and the pillow, right? So both parts together. So you can get the amplifier and the tactile experience, and then maybe use some other headphones, or maybe you already have our headphones, right?
So the Play to Me system can be used with any headphone. You don't have to use it with your headphones.
No, of course not. It's an amplifier. It's a 6.3 millimeter jack, so you can plug in whatever headphones you have. That's not a problem. The thing is, we designed. Here's a little secret, right? We designed the headphones in a way. I'm not gonna go into details because it's really not patented yet. So, but they are designed in a way that when the sound travels through your body, through your backbone, basically, all the way to your skull, right, where you have the headphones clamping force, making them stay put, right? These little vibrations will transfer to the headphone itself, right? And we have some acoustic tricks there that turns this vibration into sound as well, which is gonna sound like serious bullshit, but unless you try it, you're not gonna believe it. So if you have our headphones on, and a few other models from other companies does kind of the same thing, similarly. You can have them unplugged, right, without any sound coming from them. You just lean on the pillow, and you're actually gonna hear something. which does not happen, for example, with a really, really open headphones. For example, the HD650, right? You can wear them, turn them, plug them out, just have them on your ears, turn the pillow on. You're not gonna hear anything. You're just gonna feel some vibrations. And this is something that makes it work together. This is why a tactile sound is really enjoyable and really natural together with our headphones. And that's why we have a full system that's called a Play to Me, right? Rather than just selling it on its own, because it wouldn't perform as well. And this is something that other companies that are working in this tactile or haptic industry are fighting over every time, right? So, for example, you mentioned that you don't know any other companies. Well, there is one which is a really strong and I think pretty cool company, Subpack. Right? They have a tactile um, well, system, if you wish, and it doesn't work well with standard headphones, for example, the M50X, or with the Sennheiser 600 series or anything like that. It just doesn't work together. But it works pretty well with our headphones and a few others. So there is something, which again I'm not going to disclose right now, that connects vibrations in your body with the acoustics of a headphone that makes vibration and sound from a headphone work together in unison.
When can people expect to have the Play to Me system updated? Like, when can they expect that the update version will be available to purchase?
I think it's gonna be mid next year, but that comes down to how fast are we gonna be with securing all the patents and securing all the certification, especially for the US market. So EU is not going to be a problem, but the US is going to be. So I'm guessing mid next year, but it's good to turn and be a bit later as well. So we are talking kind of a lot into the future right now. Um, I don't know how things are going to play out. I don't think there's any CEO of any startup that really knows what's going to happen to the company in 1 year. But honestly, we are doing well. All the things we are talking now about the future, we already have. So not just prototypes, it's all ready. But having a product on the market is much more than just having a product finished. And this is the part we are dealing with right now.
Well, speaking to that, a lot of times companies will try to have things in the pipeline, start planning for new products 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the line. I know you've been talking a little bit about the S5 and then the second version of Play to Me. Do you have anything on the drawing board for anything beyond these two updates, or are you just going to? Oh, you do. Okay.
No, we have a strategy that goes about 5 years into the future, with product releases and updates and everything, right? Mm-hmm. But of course, I can't reveal any of those things at the moment. But yeah, we are planning, a lot of things to change. And basically, what we are going to do is just listen to our customers very, very closely. And try to provide them with the tools that they actually need and actually use. So we're going to try to avoid as much as possible pushing the products into their hands. Rather, we will be very happy if they can, just be so delighted by our products that they want to have more from us. Right? So that's the strategy. And to pull it off, we have to listen to them and give them, a reasonable price and a great quality every time.
Is your company pretty set on making the most neutral, most flat headphones, or are you open to suggestions and creating a headphone that's more for the mass? Like, not necessarily a Beats or a Bose type headphone, but something that's closer to a Sennheiser.
In reality, I think this market is like getting ridiculously competitive. So there's a lot of companies, a lot of big names in the industry, and a lot of newcomers are coming in, right? Because it's really not that hard to make a headphone. The problem with headphones is that um, you need to, or to sustain a company, to stay alive, basically. You gotta have some sort of differentiation, right? And if you are going into the mass market, that's really hard to do. Um, and on a side note, myself as a founder of this company, I want to stay truthful to who I am, to what I believe into, right? And to what the company now believes into that I managed to build up to this point. And saying that, we want to stay in professional audio sphere, right? We don't want to go into the consumer market. We're not attracted to it. And honestly, I don't think we can compete there. I don't think a consumer would really appreciate all the features that we offer, right? Or the fact that they are made in Europe, or the fact that they are made handmade. These things will throw us out of, we will just not be competitive. So my answer, I guess, at this moment would be probably not. Will not go into that area, and we're just gonna go even further and deeper with professional audio. And there's a lot of things we can improve when it comes to headphones, when it comes to tactile subwoofers, and when it comes to the future tech that is coming down the pipe, which is obviously the 3D audio and all this VR and AR stuff. So there's a lot happening in this area of how a professional audio engineer is going to live his or her life in the next 5 to 10 years. What are they going to actually do? What kind of things are they going to be able to sell? What's going to bring them, the money to sustain their families? Right? Is it still going to be mixing music? Is it going to be mixing broadcasting? Is it going to be video productions? What part of the music industry are they going to be involved in the next years, right? Where is the meat, right? And well, I think that our job is to stay on this quest and deliver to these guys and the guys that are coming into this industry as well, to deliver them great tools to achieve great results for a reasonable price, right? And stay competitive on their terms, and so they can, be better, make more money, be happier, and ultimately, everybody will just end up listening to better music wherever they are. So, if you want to dream big, that would be the dream, right?
I have three more questions. Uh, the first one is, what do you think, based upon your experience and trying to just build up your company, what do you think is the biggest problem or the biggest hurdle for the audio gear industry? Like, what was the most difficult thing for you other than getting funded?
So you're trying to ask in general, right?
Yes.
What's the most difficult thing or task when you're building a company in the audio industry?
Yes.
All right. I guess it's different for every company. Um, Depends on where you are. Right? If you're in Europe, it's going to be different than if you're in the US, or if you are in, I don't know, Africa or India or whatever. Um, so I think it's a really tough question, and it's going to be hard to answer it, and with certain value in it, in my answer. Um, but there is one thing that is absolutely true for any startup, right? Um, and the thing is how to get enough attention from the customers, right? At first, but when you're nobody and you can die in the next few months, and you need to get, first 20 customers in that are actually going to pay you at least a little bit, right? So you can prove the business model that you have made, and that you can prove to yourself and potentially to an investor or whatever that what you're actually making is gonna solve some problems to someone, and is gonna actually be able, or will actually pay for the service or product. So that's the toughest thing in any startup, not just in audio industry, in general, right? And this goes, for audio industry just as much. Although I would say that in our area, so when we're talking about playback systems, for example, the toughest thing is to get through the noise from all the strong companies that has like a lot of marketing budgets, and to get through for all that, that's pretty difficult. And on the other hand, a lot of companies right now that are our competitors are really strong companies when it comes to brands, right? So, for example, Sennheiser has been around for probably about 100 years, right? Biodynamic a little less. So these are really strong companies, really embedded into our brain by now. So these are the toughest things to get around. How can a consumer make an educated choice, which is basically at the end of the day just an emotional choice, right? Where you're going to go with, and feel secure by the transaction he's making, right? So if it's a startup like we are from Slovenia, which is a super small company, super small country, right? How do you build this trust with these potential clients, right? And that's really hard for us, and it's hard for any other startup. I would say, that would be the best answer I can do at this point, I think.
Well, I appreciate that. I think that's probably as good as anybody can give. Is there anything that you would want my viewers to know about your company? Anything that we haven't covered? Something you think that they should know?
I don't know. I mean, maybe the strongest point would be that we are like super open. We really are open. We're not just saying that as other companies are. We really are open. You can write to us at any time. You can call us. We're having a chat right now without a problem, right? So I mean, the fact that we're available, hopefully, will be viewed in our potential clients and current customers as a gesture of trust, as a gesture of good relationships, and as a gesture of basically transparency, right? So we're not hiding anything. We're trying to be as open as possible. So you can get inside this circle of Ollo, right? And enjoy being a part of this community, right? Exchange opinions, exchange gear, if you wish, exchange music, exchange contacts, whatever, right? And we're gonna work more on this in the future. So this community hopefully will have a strong impact on the bottom line, which is having more great music available.
Okay. Rock, could you tell me how I can pronounce your last name?
Gulic.
Gulic. Okay, so I had it right. I was just afraid to mispronounce it and insult you. So thank you so much for clarifying. Okay, let me stop the recording real quick, and I'll be right with you.